right, race fans, Ryan Aho here. Coach Kraus, Jeff Kraus in the house with us. Looking good. Supposed to wear a tie with that shirt. That's kind of formal wear. All right, I like it. And the one and only Bert Lehman. How you boys doing?
Doing good. Trying
not all bad. You can see Bert. I went garage sale shopping, and
that's the Aho shirt.
It's a rock. Like I said, I went garage sale shopping and found a Ryan Aho shirt, and I figured it's vintage. I heard of the guy, so I figured I better buy it.
You got it for $0.25. It was right next to the Packer stuff. All right. Well, hey, did you guys do any racing this week? I mean, everything rained out your way, Kraus. Bert, did you go to any races this week?
Did I go to any races this week? Is that a serious question?
I mean, there was nothing big going on in Wisconsin, was there? I mean, there's nothing at all.
I actually stayed there for the feature this year,
I'm shocked.
I saw 3 nights of racing.
That's the first time in a long time, because last year, I mean, it was a good race, but last year Pat Dorr came from like 82nd to win, and I'm like, Bert, how was it? I wasn't there. I went home. I didn't stick around. So congratulations, Bert, on sticking around for that one. But episode 189 brought to you by our friends over at Zuli's Race Engines. And if you want to join a winning team, if you're an experienced machinist, they're always looking for more help there. They're looking for another machinist to join the team. If you're looking to win races, win championships, get a Zuli's underneath the hood, right? If you can't beat them, join them. The proof's in the pudding. Just look at their Facebook page. Nonstop winning with Zuli's Race Engines. So, Bert, you went to USA Nationals. I think we'll touch on that one a little bit more in depth in just a little bit here. I made the trip over to Sycamore. I think I'll wait till the end and when we get to our bold predictions, because I may have got a point on that one. So we'll wait to the very end on that. So let's jump over into Hot Laps here, right? Hot Laps, Hot Takes, brought to you by Brad Parsons Soil and Ag Solutions. I tell you what, if you're in Western Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, get a hold of Brad. He's got all the stuff you need to have a successful farming season. 2023, I know you're looking for a great harvest here, but I tell you what, I mean, plan for the future. Get a hold of him. He said he also has foliar fertilizers, nutrient stabilizers, surfactant, and he said in 2022 in South Dakota, they had 12 to 17 bushel increases using their foliar at tasseling. So I don't know much about farming. Brad does. Give him a call, 320-219-3542. So before the show there, Bert, Puka shot us over a message, and I had it in my notes already. He is still alive. And Puka and, of course, the Bert Lehman and Puka's brother Steve, you guys did a great job with the recaps over there all 3 nights at the USA Nationals. Check that out on our YouTube feed, and make sure to subscribe when you do. But he is still alive, incidentally. I saw it myself. Bert saw him in person. He said a couple weeks ago that RTJ was getting all the talk, right? He's the #1 late model driver in the country. There's a new sheriff in town. The smooth operator, Bobby Pierce. Is it cut and dried, guys? I'll just let you kind of touch on it. Is it cut and dried? Like, is Pierce the clear #1, or is it like 1A, 1B, 1C with Huddy? What do you guys think?
You mean with RTJ?
Yeah, and with Huddy, all 3 of them.
Well, I would agree that Pierce is ahead of RTJ right now. I'd put RTJ #2 and then Huddy #3. But I mean, it's still very close between Pierce and RTJ, but I would agree in giving the edge to Pierce right now.
Kraus?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with Bert. I don't think it's I think last week's show, did we not just give it to RTJ? He was the best, and all of a sudden Pierce went off this week. So, I don't think it's a clear-cut deal. I think Pierce took it over this week. There's no doubt about it. Kind of like the 1A, 1B kind of deal. And, Hudson O'Neal's been pretty darn consistent as well, too, and in that mix, too. So, but with what Pierce has been doing, yeah, definitely. He's definitely the guy right now.
Well, in looking at the last few shows here, right? USA Nationals, of course, Bobby Pierce won. RTJ DNFs, right? Now, do you think that he had a little something left in the tank? He pulled off about lap 70 maybe? Do you think he was he in conserve mode?
There was about 25 laps left, 25 to 30 when he pulled off. And I wish he wouldn't have broke. He posted on Facebook that he broke something in the rear end. He said that he was just driving around the first 70 laps. That's what he said in his Facebook post. So take that for what it's worth. But I would have liked to have seen what would have happened if he wouldn't have broke, because RTJ never went to the top. The entire race, he did not even try the cushion. I mean, he ran the middle of the track the entire time, and I think that was his plan, because he was probably thinking the same thing I did. I didn't think there's any way that cushion was going to last 100 laps.
Kraus?
Yeah, he like Bert said, he said that on Facebook, and I said it too when I was watching the race. He's laying in the weeds. He was saving his stuff, didn't want to rip his spoiler off. Those two were up there banging the cushion, maybe using their stuff up. He was definitely doing. I think that's one of the reasons why he won Fairbury too. I think he saved his stuff for the most part and then got shuffled back there. So he's racing smart right now. There's no doubt about it. I think he's learned that over the course of time. I think that's really helped his success too, is not getting out to these big leads and using your equipment up early in a 100-lap race. So he would have been there. There's no doubt that would have been a big time 3-car race at the end.
And I was watching it because RTJ was my pick, so I was kind of paying extra close attention to him. And he had just passed Brandon Sheppard, so I was thinking to myself, all right, here he comes. He's going to make his way, and then he pulled off the next lap.
No, he basically had the memo. He actually had on his Twitter account, Burt Lehman picked me. Screw Burt Lehman. I'm pulling off, not giving him any points. I picked him too, so there might have been that. And quite honestly, do you think that he broke at Cedar Lake because of Fairbury? Because he was pounding the cushion, 4 tires off the ground. I mean, he was like wide open, just abusing that thing. Something let go in the rear end. Do you think maybe something got loosened up or something got fatigued from pounding the holes the way he did in Fairbury, and it finally came apart on him at Cedar Lake?
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, I think anything can break at any time on a race car. You know that. But was that the same car he ran there? Who knows? Those guys got so many cars. Did he bring a different car? It's a short track car, different car at Cedar. We don't know, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's obviously you race on those rough tracks, but I'm sure the crew he has definitely went through that thing. But who knows? Something broke inside the rear end, and sometimes you just can't check that.
Yeah, true enough. So one more thing I got here on Hot Take. So I've been listening. I watch a ton. So do you guys. We watch so much racing online, and the online experience is definitely significantly different than the at-track experience. But one thing that I noticed is some crowds are majorly enthusiastic and some crowds are kind of like, they're kind of boring, right? And then I got to really paying attention to, well, who's announcing, right? Who's the announcer at these events? Now, how important is it to have an announcer that's not only knowledgeable, they know what they're talking about, but enthusiastic, right? That literally brings that energy within the crowd. An example of that would be the introductions at the USA Nationals, right? Chris Steppen and Ruben, I mean, they have a ton of energy, right? That deal is hyped up. I mean, the place is jacked up, right? And then you listen to other races, and it's like they're reading off the script, the starting lineup. How important do you think it is for racing, the culture, the buy-in, the entertainment value to have an announcer with a lot of energy?
Well, I think it's very important to have an announcer that has a lot of energy, because they help get the crowd going. And I've said this to a lot of people. A good announcer isn't somebody who necessarily can call a race really well. A good announcer is somebody who can talk when the race isn't going on, Because, I mean, if you're actually at the race, half the time you can't even hear the announcer while the race is going on to begin with. Now with streaming, that's a little bit different because the announcer who's announcing is usually also announcing the stream. But a very enthusiastic announcer helps make a great program.
Yeah, definitely, Bert. It's really no different than a hockey game as well. I get them all the time. You got a good announcer announcing good starting lineups, you're going to get the crowd into it right away. I was actually just talking about this with our flagman today. He's all bent out of shape. He hates the 4 wide deal. And I said, well, yeah, the 4 wide deal is a little bit overkill, but if you don't have a good announcer pumping up the crowd for the 4 wide or getting the flashlights out like they do all the places, of course it's going to be dead. So, it's the announcers. He's got a lot to do with a lot of things. It's when you're sitting in the stands, that's who you listen to. You know what I mean? When there's downtime or whatever's going on, you have to entertain besides that. And Ryan, you got a chance to announce there a little bit. It's a super tough job. It really is. I don't think anybody wants to do it, but finding a good announcer these days, it's super, super tough.
Yeah, I had a heck of a lot of fun doing it. I wish I had more time to kind of get behind the mic a little bit. It's a blast, but I think that a lot of people, they just think in their mind that, the drivers are the whole show. And no, it's really not. The announcer's the show. Heck, the flagman. You get an animated flagman. Is Neelan your flagman over there?
Yeah, he is. Yep.
All right. So Neelan, here's what we need from you here, guy. All right. I haven't got to watch him flag. But some flagmen, they just kind of wave the flag and one to go and going green next time by. And then you see certain flag guys, right? That they got the popsicle sticks in the air and they're like 2 to go and they're like animated, the double checkered, and that's a show. That's entertaining. People in the grandstands are watching that going, that's cool. Or like the front straightaway guy that with race savers, we don't have them anymore. Running backwards on the track line and the car's up, right? All of those pieces create entertainment value. And I think that's missing. There's a few places that have stuff like that, but I think the more tracks can buy into that side of things, the better the fan base is going to be, the energy, the excitement, the culture, and I think it's something that's needed. So let's jump into the top 5 moments of this past week. And there was a ton of racing, right? Had to break it down. Of course, brought to you by Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants, founder of the company, Buck, in the Hall of Fame for lubricants, Nassau Hall of Fame. A lot smarter than this guy, I promise, okay? But one thing that we have in common, we love racing. We want to reduce the cost of racing. Well, one way to do that is to be able to take the parts that you're running, right? In this situation, tires, and run them longer, more nights, right? So he has products out there that A, help clean your tire, and B, treat them so you can get more nights out of used tires. I've talked to several people that are using their products, and I'm here to tell you it's becoming more and more popular out there, like it or not, and people are having really good results running a lot of nights. Now, $150 per tire for a mod tire, super stock tire, that's too much already. But if we're starting to get into $200 like UMP, not a good deal. So Daytona 1 Performance Lubricants can help you get more life out of your tires and more performance for a longer period of time. If you want to find out more about that, call Chad 507-828-3536. So, number 5, let's talk a little street stock racing, boys. Tucker Peterson out-dueling Braden Brower at the Buffalo River Speedway this past Sunday. My buddy Jim, my old right-hand man, he says, boy, I tell you, this is one of the better races I saw. 3 drivers literally swapping the lead at the end of that race. Tucker Peterson come out on top. Now, here's the deal. This here has national title implications. Tucker Peterson, guys, 18 wins. He's won 3 of his last 4. Braden Brower, 19 wins, and he's won 2 of his last 4. I tell you, them are 2 drivers right there that have national title hopes right in their future. They're going head-to-head. Tucker Peterson came out on top in this one. You can jump on to Dirt Race Central, look up Buffalo River Speedway from the past week. Excellent race up front in the street stock division. Number 4, either one of you guys watch a little sprint car racing this past weekend?
I did not.
I know Cruiser did.
Boy, I don't know if I remember anything. I might have watched something. Are you talking about which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the I-55 Ironman Rodeo. Kyle Larson, his second straight Ironman, chucking sliders. I think it was him and Logan Schuchart just absolute throwing haymakers at each other at the end of that race. Guys, we talk about rough racetracks, track with character. These guys were literally 4 tires off the ground, like bouncing like ping pong balls all the way around the track the entire race. The night before, there was a vicious rollover, literally both tore the fence down. They checkered it at lap 21. The catch fence did its job. So they checkered it there, fixed the fence for the next night. They got some rain, and that place was, I'm telling you what, you talk about a rough racetrack, that was extremely rough. That's on Dirt Vision, of course. But Kyle Larson, I mean, is there any question the fact that he carries his nutsack in a hefty bag? I mean, that dude's got some balls, man, and he absolutely proved it there. But highly entertaining race. Photo finish at the end, a slide job to win it. I mean, absolutely incredible race. If you haven't watched it, worth jumping on the Dirt Vision, or at least I think YouTube probably for World of Outlaw highlights or whatever. It's worth checking that out. Number 3, let's head over to the Gondikla Speedway. Arguably, it's been the best racetrack in the northern half of Wissota country all year. Racing's been really good over there. Shane Sobraski, another great finish. I tell you, he is the clear number 1 in Wissota Modifieds right now. Tyler Peterson is great, but his focus is a little bit on the late model, right? Johnny Broking having an off year. Jody Belfi finally catching some speed, but Shane Sobraski has been on a mission, and he capitalized in lap traffic there, stole one from Old Beerfly at the end. I know, Kraus, you watched that race for sure. I think we talked about that one.
Yeah, I did. I was watching that one, and Shane came from a ways back. It was Belfi. Was it Daryl on the bottom?
Might have been Daryl.
Belfi at the top, and then Brandon Kopp was rocking the cushion too. And then all of a sudden Shane got in the mix, and it was a 4-car battle there till the end. It was, like I said, I know I text right away. It was one of the it was a really, really good mod race, and thought for a second there Shane kind of slipped back on the bottom there, and I thought Belfi was going to get him back, but he find a little bit more grip on the bottom, and then I'm pretty sure he roasted a slider going into 1 there to kind of clear Belfi too. And I know he said something in his interview, made sure you cleared him. You cleared him by plenty, Shane. But that was a really, really good race up there at Gondikla.
Absolutely, and they're really good buddies, right? They travel together, they vacation together. I mean, they're pretty darn tight. And so he is genuinely concerned. Did I pimp him there for the win? No, he had plenty of room. Shane got it done. But Belfi, the first half of the year, guys, he was awful. I mean, that thing was terrible. And then they made some changes. He's found a lot of speed here in the last couple of weeks. So Belfi, a guy that could probably make some noise come in by time. So number 2, Bert, you were at this little race over there in western Wisconsin. Kind of, maybe a first annual deal. I'm not really sure. I don't think they've had this race before. Tell us a little bit about the USA Nationals, Bert.
Well, I thought all 3 nights provided a good racing. Bobby Pierce won 2 out of the 3 features. Won the first night, and then he won on Saturday night. And like Hudson O'Neal said in Victory Lane, Bobby Pierce did not make a mistake the entire race. I mean, he did not bobble a single time that I saw. And he was the first one to go to the top side in that race, because I was paying attention as to see which driver from the front was going to go to the top first, and he was the first one to go to the top. Both him and Huddy were able to use the top groove, but Hudson O'Neal had to use the cushion the entire way. I mean, he had to hit the cushion entering 1 and ride it all the way out of 2, where Bobby Pierce would enter 1 about a car width below the cushion, let his car drift up, and then about in the middle of 1 and 2, he'd use the cushion to drive off. And, sometimes when Huddy went into the corners, he'd bounce off the wall like they were doing at Fairbury. And while they were doing the same thing at Deer Creek earlier this year, they were bouncing off the wall. But Pierce wasn't bouncing off the wall. But then Huddy closed in on him that last lap. And I didn't think he was going to get to him. He got to him, put on the slider, but just couldn't quite hold on. Bobby Pierce won by about a half a car length.
Yeah, Pierce basically put it in conserve mode. Dad had the big signals out, like, hey, you got a long ways, a long, big gap. They got up to Bronson. Yep. Bronson was kind of a fish out of water, and Pierce kind of like not really sure what to do. And, yeah, he played it perfectly. And he, like he said, he caught the glimmer of Huddy sliding him, and he was able to turn back underneath them. If not for Deer Creek, right, the go for 50, that was an incredible finish. This might be the best finish of the year, right? For late model racing, it's definitely the second best. Same two guys, but excellent finisher, and crowd had to have been pretty entertained with that one. So a couple takeaways here. So we'll kind of go take our takeaways here from the USA Nationals, and I guess whoever wants to go first. I got a handful here. Bert, you were there, so why don't you go ahead? What are some takeaways that you had from the event as a whole at the Cedar Lake Speedway?
Well, one of my takeaways was some of the locals who were trying to qualify with the Outlaws and decided not to race with the local late models. I mean, Nick Avalink was one of those drivers. I was looking forward to watching him race, three nights against the local late models, and he didn't race any nights with the locals. He raced with the World of Outlaws the entire weekend. Same thing with AJ Demo. Giassi and Glenn's raced with the Outlaws the first two nights, but then did double duty the final night. That's what I thought Nick would do. I thought he'd do double duty the final night, but he didn't. So that was one of my takeaways was, some of the locals just raced with the Outlaws, even though they may have had a better chance. Well, not may. They had a better chance of winning if they would have raced with the locals.
I had several people reach out. Let's dig into this a little further. I had several messages come across going, what the hell is Nick Avalink thinking, right? $2,500 to win 3 nights. He's a legitimate contender. Just got done winning $5,000 the week before. I get it. I nothing against him for going out and trying to make the USA Nationals in the big show, but it made no sense to me why he wasn't trying to, especially after night one, when he realized he just wasn't that competitive. Why not just go out and win $2,500 the next 2 nights? Carlos, what's your thoughts on that as a racer?
Here, did you listen to James Giassi interview after one of those deals? He goes, someone asked him about, because he was running both cars too, correct? I believe he was. Someone asked him about, he goes, you cannot, running with those guys makes you better. And it's like, I was talking, we had my hockey tryouts this week, and I had some 15, 16-year-olds, and they got to play against 20-year-olds. Well, you're playing up a level. You know what I mean? You're going to get better playing up a level. So I compare that racing to these guys. When these big boys come to town, I think it's the experience, and you get to gain the fact that you're running with those guys. It's going to make you better. No different. Tim Johnson started running Viking Speedway. Everybody got mad. Not me. I wanted to get on my A game. I wanted to get better because you want to race against the best. If you want to get faster, if you want to get better, race against the best. And I think that's what those guys were doing. And I give them props for racing against those guys. Like my buddy Dan always says, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. But I like seeing those guys. I like seeing the locals run against them. And you know what? Make yourself better. That's my takeaway from that.
Well, with that said, how about doing what Jake Tim did, though, right? Where you run against them, but also race and go try to win some money.
He ran the same car. I didn't realize he was running the same car until he said in his interview there, you can change restrictor plates or restrictors or whatever they got in those carburetors these days too. So he was playing it smart, but a lot of work. That was a lot of work. And he even said that was a lot of work. So, it's both. You can say both things about what those guys did. You can flip a coin, but I like seeing the locals, if you have the super stuff, run against the super guys. That's just my personal preference.
And I did talk to Nick Avalanche Thursday night after the races. I went down into the pits and I asked him why he wasn't doing double duty. And he said he didn't want to risk getting involved in an accident in the local late model heat races, because he wanted to race against the Outlaws. And he was racing an open car. So, I mean, he wasn't restricted in that way. But he did make the feature Friday night. I don't know how much he made, and he did make the last chance qualifier race on Saturday night. And for just making that race, any driver that made that race got $1,000. So he got $1,000 just for making that last chance qualifier race.
And he's ran well with them before. I know he's got on the podium in Eastern Wisconsin running with the Outlaws. So, I mean, he's no stranger to it. I know that I was a little heartbroken, and so were you, because we picked him in the Cedar Lake late models, right? So it kind of hurt us in the pick'ems there. What do you got next there, Bert?
Brendan Shepard, I mean, he faded a little bit the last 30 laps. I think he finished 5th or 6th, but he has to be fairly happy with how he ran at Cedar Lake. So he seems to be getting more familiar with the Longhorn. So, I look for him to continue to improve even more the rest of the year in the Longhorn.
Boy, I hope so. I'm a Sheppy fan. It'd be good to see.
And then, there's I don't know if you guys, Ryan, I'm sure you saw this photo. I don't know if Jeff saw it, but because Tanner English finished 3rd, and Huddy, Pierce, and English, they all have dads who used to race. And in Victory Lane afterwards, there's a picture of those 3 drivers plus their dads behind them in Victory Lane. And that's a pretty cool photo to see the sons and the dads together in one photo.
I disagree because I feel really old looking at that. And it definitely was cool. I mean, the changing of the guard, so to speak, right? I mean, 2nd year in a row, no Moyer, no Bloomquist, right? And now you got 2nd generation drivers that are on the podium. And I tell you what, we're not getting younger, but it's cool to see some of them young guns getting after it.
And what else you got? Another thing, somebody must have put some kryptonite in Superman's car, because he is not running very well right now. He faded pretty much in every race that he was in over the course of the 3 days at Cedar Lake. So he is definitely not hitting on all 8 cylinders right now.
No, he was struggle bus. Another guy that stuck out to me, Jake Radetzky, right? He wins 2 nights of the Masters, 10,000 to win. I picked him to win night number 1. I'm like, Jake, what the hell are you doing? Where are you? He sends me a picture. He goes, I'm drinking a little beer, have a little fun. He did that the next night, came out Saturday. I think maybe he was hungover, not really sure. Looked like it on the racetrack, kind of had a rough night. But were you guys surprised that Jake Radetzky didn't race all 3 nights?
I would have to say just the fact that he's had success there, and he was having a little nose problems on on Saturday. He had good starting spots too. I think he started up front in his heat, did he not, or something? And his nose kept hitting the track, and his car wouldn't turn, and then he was having troubles in the feature. So hey, but you know what? He got to have some fun too. So he's hanging out with his buddies, doing what he was doing, but. Definitely a little surprised because he's been fast. And then he was up running. Pretty sure he ran Superior on Sunday. I know that. So a little surprised not to see him there all 3 nights.
Well, actually, one of those races on Saturday, he had a left front tire flat, and he stayed out there and kept racing. So the car was a little bit more difficult to handle that race.
True. Bert, any more takeaways from you? You guys did a really good job on the recap shows. Any more takeaways?
Jason Feger was on the struggle bus, really bad. He just didn't look good at all. Let's see what else.
Here, I got a question for you, Bert.
Okay.
What was the quote of the week at the USA Nationals?
Uh-oh.
Number one.
Oh,
Pat
yeah.
Dorr
Okay.
with,
Now I remember. Yes. They interviewed all the heat race winners for the local late models, and Pat Dorr won his heat race, and they asked him what was the difference that you were able to pull away from the rest of the pack, and Pat Dorr just said, my car was faster.
with the Pat Dorr smirk and kind of the head turn like he does. My car was faster. That's it, right? It's like, I got nothing. That was classic. What was kind of the, if there was drama, not a lot of big drama, but in the Cedar, maybe this was the Outlaws. This was the Outlaw late models, one of the heats. Probably the dump of the week. Did you see when old Chad Mater absolutely yard sailed Jake Tim?
Yes, I did see that, and yeah, that was on the start of that race or that restart. I can't remember if it was the start of the race or Tim really drove it down low and kind of forced the issue. But I mean, it's racing.
Yeah, it looked like Chad maybe played. He was playing for keeps on that one. He ended up transferring in too, so worked out for him. So, any more takeaways from the Nationals from you guys?
I mean, actually, there really weren't any controversial accidents or really major accidents like there have been in years past. We didn't get any crazy quotes like, when you play with squirrels, you're playing with nuts or something like that. Like we had that one year. I think that was from Ryan Gustin. But probably the most excitement as far as controversy was in the local late models. I think it was Friday night. I think it was Jake Miller got into it with somebody. I can't remember who, but he was not happy, and he let that driver know it.
He's got a short fuse. I remember him about running out onto the racetrack at the Labor Day shootout in Hibbing. He was pissed off, and they ended up having to throw the yellow because he was flipping out, and it's like, wow, guy. All right. So, guys, we had a little bit of a debate on, I don't know if it was Saturday, maybe. We're talking about USA Nationals, and somebody else, one of the people in our group chat was like, "Oh man, they drag it out so freaking long. It's like an hour and a half intermission." And I think that I want your guys' take. My thoughts on it is, when you go to the USA Nationals, especially on Saturday, you know what you're going to get. You know what's going to happen, right? They're going to farm it after the late models, the Cedar Lake late models, every time, and then they're going to roll the track in. Then they're going to do the introductions. It's going to be an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half. You just know that. Now, I talked to some people that were there, and they're like, didn't even notice, right? Didn't notice it was that long. We went to the concession. People went back to their campers, right? We're in vendor row. We're BSing. We're having a good time. We didn't notice. Is it that much difference when you're sitting at home and you're going, are they going to race already, or what the hell are we doing here, versus being at the track? What's your thoughts on that long break before the main event?
I would agree. I mean, if I'm watching a stream, I just want to see racing. It's just like, forget about this other stuff. Let's just see racing. But if I'm actually at the event, I'm usually there with some friends. And so, when there is track work going on, we're talking, or like you said, you take that time, go to the bathroom, go to the concession stand, go buy a t-shirt or whatever. And I believe they worked on the track for an hour, and then they did the intros. So if you add the time for the intros, yeah, you're probably looking at hour 20, hour and a half. But it really didn't seem that long. And but like I said, I was there with a bunch of friends, so we're joking around, we're doing our thing, and you really don't notice how long it's taking.
Kraus, any takeaways from the USA Nationals that we haven't covered?
The format change. It's the first time they've changed that format in a while. I know we were texting it. We were at a group text going about the format deals. I don't know. I always, as a racer, I never have been part of this, every lap matters things. I know, like, the Little Dream does the double heats, and I think that's awesome. So I'm still kind of a little bit torn about the format. No inverts ever. I don't think there was any inverts at all.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
there was. Sometimes you'll after qualifying they'll invert this many or that, but so that was, I don't know, maybe Bert, maybe I was going to bring that up. Maybe that's why Davenport didn't win, because he complains about the format every year. Maybe he wants to go back to the past point. So that was I don't think a lot of people really understand when you're there. They're just racing. You don't think of the format, but I was checking the points and who's the top 16 after Friday, who's in, where's everybody starting. So I think the format was interesting how it played out.
Yeah, I would agree.
And one thing I should mention before we leave USA Nationals is the new track record at the Speedway. Shannon Babb set a new track record for the super late models.
Yeah, he was fast, and then immediately in the heat race, he messed up, and he went from first to like fourth in the first lap. Yep. It's like, well, that was short-lived. He did make the show. I don't remember if he finished. I think was he in the top 10 at the end of that deal?
No, I think he pulled off.
Okay. We should probably mention B1 Bomber, right? Yeah. Brent Larson was a hard charger.
He was a hard charger.
What did he get, 7th? Did he get 7th in that deal?
And started like 22nd or something like that?
26th, I think. I think he was 26th.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was talking to some people because it didn't show. That's one problem with watching it online, is it doesn't really show that. And a few people I talked to that were there said, like, yeah, a lot of people fell out, but he passed his way up there for the most part and kind of worked his way up on the bottom, kind of the old Jimmy Mars left front, like right on the tires. So he drove a good race. Good to see Brent Larson representing at home. So number 1, guys, the richest payday in Wissota auto racing. Cruiser, we were chatting all night long during this one. Take us home a little bit here on what happened this past Tuesday night.
The big thing is I didn't even check who got my hard charger money. I know Chris Steppen got a chuckle out of it when I donated $29 of the hard charger because I was the Little Dream hard charger in 2018. I went 22nd to 8th or something. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to donate to the hard charger. And then our podcast donated $100 on top, just like the One to Go show did too. So it's just a great event. I know we always talk about it with the dual heats. The year I started up front, I started on the pole in the heat. And I won my heat. And then I started 10th and got 4th. And that puts you in that top couple, 3-4 rows. So I think that, track position there is huge. It definitely is. And then I think because Tourville rolled out on the pole, did he not?
Yep.
And he's been super tough in that thing. And what he was gearing up for. He brought that thing out. He was gearing up for one race, and that was to bring home the big money. And, overall, it was a decent show. I don't think it was anything to write home about. There's, some of those heats get pretty intense. Guys are trying to pass and get some cars. So, good to see, Tourville obviously got the win. I think everybody was kind of hoping Vogel was kind of there for a little bit and kind of faded. And overall, it was a good race and just good to see the variety of guys that are there. And then super interesting, the guys that weren't there.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second here. So $29,411, Bert, given to the winner of the 29th annual Street Stock Little Dream at the Rice Lake Speedway, Rice Lake, Wisconsin. Keith Tourville got it done. Second, Nick Traynor. A lot of complaining about Nick Traynor after the heat races. He made that thing wide. And there were some people going, man, he's a hack. It's like, do you realize what kind of money you're racing for? Right? Like, I love my mom, but I would run her over if I had a chance to win that kind of money. And quite honestly, she'd be pissed off if I didn't, because she's a big race fan herself. So Traynor got second. He was there, but Tourville was class of the field. Local Hunter Van Gilder, and he's actually grandson to the legendary Hall of Famer Butch Madsen. So Butch Madsen, a guy that's won a ton of races at Rice Lake, his grandson representing on the podium, and Jeff Nowak with a great run. Plus 10 guys. I think he probably was a hard charger, Nowak. I'll have to find out on that because we donated 100 on top and 71A to the hard charger as well. So $100 extra to the hard charger between our shows. And then Coomer got fifth. Vogel was side by side with Tourville. Like what, the first, would you say 4 or 5 laps? Like they were literally neck and neck, like they were racing on a parade lap. Left rear shock broke on the 10 ride, and he faded to 6th at the end. So tough break for Vogel. But who wasn't there, right? One thing I love about the Street Stock Little Dream is the elite come out. The top drivers in Wissota Street Stock Drive and Wissota Street Stocks from all areas are there. Now, we didn't have Jeremy Castro because he tumbled hard last week and destroyed a car, was not able to make it. But the big one that was not there, and this is from Josh actually sent in fan feedback here. He's like, I'm a big Brower fan. Both these kids, hell of a race car drivers, are both going to finish probably in the top 3 or 4 in national points. One of them for sure contending for the Natty. Where the hell were they? Guys, they literally drive to Rapid City, South Dakota on a Friday for $250 to win, right? They're in Buffalo River for $200-$300. They drive all over the place, and they don't go 2.5 hours to Rice Lake for $29,000 to win. Are you out of your freaking minds? I don't get it. Your guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, you were right. We were texting about that right away, and I think you did some research on that. And I mean, obviously Jeff probably runs that program. We all know that, and kind of said, no, we're not going to go there. We're concentrating on the national championship, maybe. Well, what's that pay? $2,500.
Right.
You know, so like I said, I raced a street stock for a year and a half, and guess where I went both times I had that street stock, and I'm 4.5, almost 5 hours away. You're going to Rice Lake. That's just where you're going. I don't care what you're paying. So, and Timmy Johnson comes out of the woodwork. I mean, everybody comes out of the woodwork for that show. So, yeah, definitely disappointing, especially like you said, those guys they're absolutely everywhere. They're cross country and lead the national points at the time. Everybody wants to see you there. Like I said, these guys don't show up. The only people you're hurting there are the fans. And then the rest of the racers are like, oh, great. We got 2 cars we don't have to race again. So definitely super surprised they weren't there.
Bert? I agree. I mean, I don't know these drivers, but if you're racing for almost $30,000 and you're only 2.5 hours away, yeah, it should kind of be a priority to give it a shot, especially if you're that good.
So, and now I don't have a plumb nickel into their cars, right? And let's face it, they're both teenagers, right? I think one's 18 or 19 and the other one's 16 or 17. I promise you, they do not make the decision where they race, right? That's mom and dad or whatever. That Jeff makes the calls. That's fine. His dollar, whatever. But I do have a solution to this deal, right? Make a freaking phone call. These are the two of the best Wissota Street Stock drivers out there. They're thinking back to what was it, 2 or 3 years ago when it was a complete dumpster fire at that event, right? I mean, there was shit tore up in every single race. It was a disaster. Well, the last couple of years ain't been like that. There wasn't a whole lot of carnage, right? I promise you that they watched that race and they sat and looked at each other and been like, we should be there. This is stupid, right? And would you think, Jeff, that either one of those 2 drivers, now, do you think they could make a phone call to somebody and say, hey, we got to leave our car at home. Can I run your car at the Little Dream? They'd probably find a ride. Now, you do got to be careful with that because you don't want to get into somebody's car that you don't know much about, because next thing you know, you win the race, you get DQ'd for something you had no idea that it's illegal and lose a national title. So if you're going to do that, you better do your homework, make sure that thing's legit. At least maybe even put their own engine in somebody else's car so they can't get in trouble or whatever. But I got to be honest. I guess I just kind of feel bad for the kids, for the fans, because, looking back 5 years, 10 years from now, and all the money that's been paid out at this event, right? And they aren't even competing in it, and they should be, because they probably both be contending to win there. And it just sucks, but I guess it is what it is. Congratulations, Keith Tourville. Another low dollar operation there, but Player Chassis representing in Victory Lane. So, guys, let's jump into a little who's hot and who's not. Brought to you by our friends over at Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating in Ashland, Wisconsin, home of the Galloper chassis. They don't just build race cars. They don't just fabricate race cars. They sell parts. If you need any parts, tires, safety equipment, you need it, get a hold of Chris and the crew over at Fastlane Motorsports and Powder Coating. If you need custom fab work done, powder coating, sandblasting, you name it, they do a great job. They got a great fab guy over there, does an awesome job. I used to have a Galloper chassis myself, and they are the proud sponsors of the best, by far, the best series in WISSOTA racing, the Fastlane Motorsports Northland Superstock Series. So thanks, Chris, for all you do for dirt track racing. So, guys, Bert, let's start with you.
Well, nationally, do I take the low-hanging fruit?
I mean, it's hard not to, right?
I'll take Bobby Pierce.
13 of his last 15 features, top 2. One of them was a 3rd, one was a 10th at Cedar. I think you're kind of spot on. Hard not to pick that guy.
And do you want me to do my local one right away?
Yeah.
Locally, I'm going to do some home cooking from Eastern Wisconsin. Brett Swedberg made the trip to Cedar Lake Speedway. First night, he was passing cars in the feature, but then on the back stretch, he tagged the wall a little bit, and it sucked him in, and he was done for the night. So that's not why he's on the hot list, though. He made the feature the next night, ran well. And then on Saturday night, he finished 3rd, I believe, in the feature. So, he doesn't race at Cedar Lake all that often. So to come in there and run that well is a good accomplishment that deserves to be mentioned.
Absolutely. Kraus, who do you got?
Well, obviously, Bobby Pierce. 13 wins since the Dream Race in Eldora. That's in mid-June. And, I got to give a shout out to Kevin Burdick too. He won he was cherry picking. He knew Pat Dorr was going to draw the 16 invert and start on the pole the next race. Something else we need to talk about is that new rule there in that challenge series, that almost cost him. Actually would have if Skeeter went to jump the cushion. And then, Tucker Peterson, won 2 more last week. And I believe, I don't know if it was 2 or 3. Did he get 3? There was a rainout in there that he missed, and then probably wanted to do a little bit better at the Little Dream. I know he started 19th, got 19th. I've been in the back of that Little Dream race, and you want to tear up some equipment in a big hurry, start in the back of that Little Dream. I was running 4th out there one year and got sent to the back, and I'm like, and this was even a few years ago when I was a little bit younger and dumber. And I'm like, I don't even want nothing to do with these guys. So I gotta go with Tucker Peterson. And then also Kevin Burdick, he passed Ricky Thornton Jr. How can you not be on the hot list when you pass Ricky Thornton Jr. in a WISSOTA car, right?
Drove right by him like he was parked, incidentally. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Dude, so not only did he pass, we'll talk about Pat Dorr kind of in the same event. When Pat Dorr passed Jonathan Davenport to win the heat, I talked to Joe Staria. He said the grandstands erupted. He said, I ain't heard a cheer like that in a long time over at the Gondikla Speedway in Superior. I mean, when you got local WISSOTA guys that run there weekly driving by, arguably the best guys to strap in a race car, that was a pretty exciting deal. Let's talk about that deal with Burdick. You can talk about that right now. So the Challenge Series, we're talking the Twin 25s there. I don't know if Bert saw it, so lay it out. What happened there?
So, well, my boy Ryan Michelson, got to give him a shout out, was leading the race. Alexandria, he's from Alexandria here. Well, he lives in Alexandria now. I shouldn't say he's from here. He works for Viking Coke. Got to give him a shout out. He's my Coke representative for the Blizzard and for the racetrack. So he's leading the race, blows his motor. Okay, and sorry, Ryan, that's just horrible. Sounds like his year is going to be over. He's going to be done for the year, I think he saw. And I had no clue about this, but the new rule, supposedly they're just doing it at the Challenge Series. If the first place guy breaks down, causes yellow, and he's done, the second place guy does not inherit the lead, and they go to a double wide restart. So I would assume Burdick selected the bottom because he was in second, right? And then actually the preferred line was the high side. So he actually gave Skeeter the high side on that restart. So it went to a double file after that. And I thought about it for a second and I said, hold on here a sec. If I'm in the second place car, I'm spitting nails right now. It's not my fault Ryan Michelson broke. It's not. Okay. And let's say you started 10th or 12th and you worked your way up to second place and the leader breaks, you deserve to be the leader because you worked your way into second place. So I just stop fixing stuff that isn't broke, and stop messing with that. That was stupid. I thought, and if Skeeter went to jump the cushion, that rule would have cost Kevin Burdick that win.
Can you do a little digging, right? Because you're on the board at a racetrack. Figure out where the hell that rule came from. I've never seen anything like that, right? Everything I've ever seen ever is if you're second and the leader breaks, you're the leader. Delaware restart, you're out front. Second gets lane choice. Third goes opposite. That's how it works. I would like to know the origin to that rule because, like you said, I mean, why are we messing with stuff that really does not need messed with? That makes no sense whatsoever. Bert, did you watch the Twin 25s? Did you see that?
I did not watch it, but hearing this is the first I've heard of such a rule. I've never heard this rule in any other racing setting, and I agree. I mean, if you're in second, you deserve to be the leader. If the leader breaks, I mean, you earned the second place spot when you were running in that position, so you should be in the first place spot.
Yeah,
so
like somebody
making up more rules.
Sorry, someone told me today, was like, well, if you're light at the scale, does second place not win? You know what I mean? What's the difference? You know what I mean? And then you could go down the list. It's just something, it doesn't work. Get rid of it. Let's move on.
Are we really surprised that WISSOTA is making up more rules as they go? Asking for a friend. All right. So, Kraus, is that who you got on Who's Not? You got anybody else there?
No, that's it.
I'm going to go with Tyler Cater, Young Gun modified driver, a couple modified specials here this past weekend in Western Minnesota, KRA Speedway in Wilmer, Fiesta City Speedway in Montevideo. And he kind of had a little dry spell. He kind of struggled, switched chassis last year, jumped back into the SSR, looked really sporty, and some really good competition at both of those races as well. So super cool seeing Tyler Cater get a couple wins. They were heading to Viking on Saturday, but Mother Nature won that one, so they're going to have to conquer that big half mile this week, I guess. The other one, I had Tucker Peterson as well. I'm going to go a third generation driver, Blake Adams. So Blake Adams, I predicted earlier in the year he was going to get at least 3 feature wins. Guys, he doubled that. As a rookie, teenager, right? 6 wins so far in the Midwest mods. Kraus, have you seen his helmet?
I have not.
So he's from Wisconsin, right? Cameron, Wisconsin. He's got a full-on Minnesota Vikings helmet. Bert, that shit makes you fast. I'm just saying. Got to have it. So I got to give him a shout-out. That was a cool helmet. I'll make sure Mason posts a picture of that on here. And then nationally, I think we all have Bobby Pierce. So who's not? Bert, let's start with you. Who's not?
Nationally, I already talked about him, but I'm going to go with Superman. He just did not look like Superman at the USA Nationals, but I think the majority of the crowd was okay with that. I think they're getting sick of him winning all the time. I heard comments that, because he had won the last 2 USA Nationals and the crowd wanted to see a different winner. So I'm going with Superman. And then locally, I'm going to go with AJ Demo. He only raced with the Outlaws, which is fine, but he didn't look good racing with the Outlaws. And he actually posted on Facebook that the weekend was abysmal. So, I don't think he would argue with me putting him on the not hot list.
Yeah, 100%. Be careful now because I don't want him winning on Friday. I didn't pick him to win the Mater, so careful with that not hot list juju right there. Kraus, who do you have on not hot?
Well, other than the Davenport, I'm going Tim McCready. He's only got 2 wins since the Dream in June. Davenport has 3. Was non-existent the last 2 weekends. A guy that sits and complains about purses and you got to pay us late model guys more. $250,000 shows he doesn't show up. So he's who knows, taking the week off for the North South, who knows? And I get he's a Lucas guy, but still, come on, Tim, do your fans a favor, go sell some T-shirts, get on over this way so we can see you race. And then I have to go with a buddy of mine in the who's the local guy, Ryan Satter. I know he's been racing his IMCA stock car, and props to Ryan for doing that. I get that, but I think he won out in the desert a race, but he's got 2 wins at I-94 and 1 at Viking. He won almost every street stock feature at Viking last year, except for like 2 or 3. So I know he hasn't been racing as much. I know he's working, busy. I get that, Ryan. But I think it's time to get the 67 and out of the streeter. And like I said, concentrate on the stock car. I got no issues with that. Hey, props. He wants to hop into a different class, but this area wants to see Ryan Satter doing well and back in victory lane.
Yeah, I kind of missed that 67 out there. I mean, he was a guy to beat at both Fergus and Viking pretty much weekly for the last few years. So on a national level, I mean, JD, right? But I'm also going to put Turbo. What's the one thing that those 2 drivers have in common this year? They both lost their crew chief, right? So we talked about Jimmy Owensberg here about 3 years ago. He won like everything there was to win in Lucas. He won by like 500 points. Crew chief disappears. He's non-existent ever since. Jonathan Davenport, $2 million man last year. Crew chief disappears. Where's Waldo? Yeah, he got a couple wins. I mean, I think he does have 11, but he's been on the struggle bus compared to a year ago. Turbo's been absolutely terrible. I think his whole crew is Randall Edwards is gone. I don't know. I mean, kind of they're searching. JD just looks awful. Turbo tonight, we're filming this. It's Tuesday. I don't know if you guys saw this. He's driving one of the 28 cars. He's in an MB over at the Red Cedar Speedway for the XR Working Man Series. If he performs well, could you possibly see Turbo making the switch over to an MB?
I mean, anything's possible. I think it's a long shot, but obviously there's a reason he's driving that car, so who knows what will happen.
Yeah, we'll find out. So let's jump into a little fan feedback brought to you by BuyRaceShirts.com. If you need hats, shirts, hoodies, banners, apparel of any kind for your race team, racetrack, for your series, for your business, go to BuyRaceShirts.com, and they have a lot of different options. They do a great job for racers by racers. So this one, guys, came from Dry Slick Fan anonymously. Okay, Dry Slick Fan came from a phone number. I don't even know who this is, and it says here, I'll read it. It says, I was at the XR Super Series event in Superior on Monday, and I got to totally disagree with Ryan. In fact, I'm going to give him a donkey award because he always sits and complains about how boring Dry Slick racing is. Well, RTJ came from 15th to the podium. There was a lot of movers and shakers in the race. I would say it wasn't boring. I would say that it was extremely technical. I had a great time watching the event. He goes on to say, now I will agree, Dry Slick online can be kind of boring. He goes, but at the racetrack, it's a totally different deal. What is your guys' thoughts on Dry Slick racing? And in particular, I mean, we watched last night's, I don't know if you did, Bert, but I know me and Jeff both watched last night's event in Superior. do you think there's a huge difference between watching it online? Because I don't remember, they didn't really show RTJ coming through the field, did they? A couple of times. And quite honestly, that probably was fun watching him kind of work his way up into the podium, but we didn't see it online. What's your thoughts on these comments that he had here? Or she, whoever it is.
Did RTJ really start 15th? I thought I thought he started 11th. Was it 15th?
You can look at your phone. I'm on mine. Go ahead and pull it up. I think he was.
Here's my take on that. First off, nobody's watching the 15th place car during the race anyway, right? Everybody wants to see Huddy and Pierce come to the line side by side. That's what you go to the races for. You live for that stuff. Okay, if he did go 15th to 3rd, 3 of those cars he passed were WISSOTA cars, so those don't count. Okay, and then so he. Whatever, but everybody's watching RTJ right now. You know what I mean? So everybody's fans are eyes on him. How's it going? Stuff like that. And if you watch those heat races up at Gondeglaw, they were absolutely terrible. I mean, they were okay, other than Pat Dorr blown by Davenport. But the night before, with the Challenge Series, it was slow and dirty and dry, slick. But the track did come around for the features. It had the great mod race, and I get that. But Ryan, we talk about this all the time. Imagine a dry slick track at Fairbury or even at Cedar Lake. You know what I mean? No, they want to see people bouncing off the cushion. They want to see slide job. And you can throw a slide job on dry slick, but you're going 2 miles an hour and your car's about coming to a stop. You know what I mean? So from a fan standpoint, I don't care what it's at. You want to have a little grip in it. You want to be able to throw some slide jobs. You want sparks coming off the wall. And yeah, one of the greatest modified races I've ever seen at Viking Speedway at the Mod Nationals that one year. You remember that race? It was dry slick top to bottom. It was one of the best tracks. I mean, but we had a little food on the bottom, a little food up top. You know what I mean? So it's a tough call. Everybody, just from a fan, you want action, and little tacky tracks, they're going to have way more action than a dry slick track.
So Bert, fan's perspective, that's a driver and a fan's perspective. We're going to get your perspective on this.
Well, I mean, a dry slick track, yes, there can be passing, but it doesn't always mean that it's exciting to watch that passing take place. Just as an example, and we talked about this last week and probably before, I'm trying to think of which one. Well, the IMCA Stock Car feature, the 10,000 to win show at 141 Speedway. Benji Lacrosse started 13th, finished second, but it really wasn't exciting watching him drive up to second. Like you said on last week, it was a technical track. You had to, for a driver, you have to be very technical on a track like that, but that's not necessarily exciting for the fans to watch. I agree with Jeff. Fans want to see a cushion. They want to see slide jobs, and it's hard to have slide jobs if there's not a cushion that's going to prevent you from hitting the wall eventually. So I agree. I mean, I think from a fan's perspective, a tacky track is more fun to watch, but it has to be a multi-grooved tacky track. If it's just topside dominant, then there's no passing going on in that case either.
Well, there you go. And I agree with both of you. And RTJ did start 15th. He got 4th in his heat. So that was a heck of a run. But overall, I would take a track with some grip and some action as well. So Tim actually asked us here. He goes, I know this ain't a NASCAR show. We're not asphalt people. We're not in the NASCAR. What's your thoughts on this Noah Gragson suspension for the next 2 weeks from his race team?
Is it only 2 weeks? I had heard indefinitely. Did they change it?
I saw 2 weeks today.
Okay. They may have changed it. I'll just say drivers have to be smart and just not get involved in that sort of thing on social media. Because everybody's looking for you to mess up, and so you just have to be smart.
Yeah. Let's face it. I don't know what's in their contracts. I don't know if they have contracts. there is a freedom of speech deal, right? Like literally, what he did is there was a off-color, right, controversial post on Facebook, and he liked it. And I don't know when that post was even from. I've heard a couple different things. I heard it was an older post, but I don't know. But they found it somehow. But here's the question, right now. Most people would have no idea that he even liked it, nor would they even, right? They have no idea. The fact that they suspended him brought way more attention than what's even needed. It's like, what are they doing? I mean, fine them, do something, whatever they got to do. But I mean, if they're looking to have like negative publicity by bringing this to light, that brings negative publicity a lot more than just doing nothing. So, but you're right, Bert. You got to be a little smarter than that when you're making that kind of money. And I got one last one here. So, Jeff, did you watch the Mod and Midwest Mod races yesterday at the XR event at Superior?
I watched. The mod feature was right after the super late model feature, correct?
Yeah. Did you watch the heats?
Some of them I did, yes.
Okay, so Bert, I sent you a video. I might have sent this to Jeff. I don't remember. But in the heat race, boy, I don't remember. Brennan Gave was leading the heat. Kennedy Swan's on the inside on a restart. Dan Ebert on the outside. They go green. Kennedy Swan and Ebert drive right around them. They battle for the lead. She drives by Dan Ebert on the bottom, drives away from him in the 18S, and parks it in victory lane, wins the heat race, right? Both her and Dan Ebert got 2 spots after the race for jumping. So Lisa here sent a message saying, did you see how bad they screwed over Kennedy Swan at the XR event? What are your thoughts? Now, initially, I was like, oh boy, they maybe did, but I screen grabbed it, right? And I slowed it down. And I even reached out to Joe Staria and I said, did you get any grief? He goes, not a bit. In fact, here's what happened. They used instant replay. So the Gondikla Speedway implemented instant replay into all the Midwest Mod and mod events or mod races last night, that anything that happened, if there was a yellow, they would look at it, they would screen grab it, they'd slow it down to make sure they got it right, didn't really add any time to the program. I did that. I looked at it. They had a start zone there. Brendan Gave fired dead center in the middle of that start zone, right where he was supposed to, and they were literally 3 wide when he hit the gas. Ultimately, they made the right call, and that leads me to this question. We talked about this in the past, but if you can do it in a timely fashion, right, and not prolong the show with all the camera angles, especially at big events and all that, your thoughts on instant replay?
Well, go ahead. Sorry, Bert. You're it's a can of worms, man. Did they announce that at the pit meeting? They're using instant replay?
No idea.
Do the drivers know about it? I mean, NFL, everybody knows you get 2 challenges. Major League Baseball, everybody knows you get a challenge for instant replay. You know what I mean? Did the drivers know about it? Because I tell you one thing.
In the NFL, though, they can instant replay anything they want.
But everybody knows that. Absolutely, everybody knows that. If I win the feature at Superior and they come in and they dock me 2 spots because they went to instant replay, I'm sitting in Superior County Jail right now. I'm sorry, I just am. You know what I mean? Especially if they're not going to tell you. It's a different story if it's, now we're getting into, is it a WISSOTA rule? You know what I mean? I don't know. That's right now, I would say no. It needs to be hey, and all of a sudden you're going track to track. Are they using instant replay? Aren't they using instant replay? What's going on here? You're opening up a big can of worms saying, yeah, you jump start because instant replay. You know what I mean? That's BS to me.
I mean, I agree with Jeff. I mean, we've talked about this on the show before, and I'm adamantly against instant replay. But Jeff brings up a good point. I mean, was last night's race a WISSOTA race? Was that WISSOTA point? Yeah.
WISSOTA don't have any freaking rules. They have 0 rules when it comes to race procedures. WISSOTA, they don't have any. In fact, they have refused to make any rules for race procedures. WISSOTA legitimately, not exaggerating, the same thing like Starkey or whatever, WISSOTA does not have any rules when it comes to race procedures. Zero. None.
But to me, if a track's being sanctioned by a sanctioning body, and one track is using instant replay, but the other tracks aren't, that's not right. I mean, either it's all or nothing. I mean, all the tracks have to use it, or none of the tracks use it.
Well, that's the same thing for everything then, right? Where you start the race, how many scale, how many go to tech, right? How are they scoring it on the last lap? If there's if there's an altercation on the last lap, I agree, but you can't just do that for, instant replay, it's all or nothing, but all this other stuff can be different everywhere. WISSOTA should get together and be like, okay, it's a WISSOTA event. Here's how WISSOTA events are ran. And they should have an outline list of, we do this on the last lap, green, white, checkered. I mean, everything should be the same for procedures at every WISSOTA race. I agree. But you can't just take one thing and be like, well, it's got to be the same here. Because we look at the heat race last night, Dennis Erb Jr. flat out dumped Chad Mater. Dumped him. Not on purpose, I don't think. He's just rolling around, spun him out. Chad Mater's leading the race. Well, they have in the XR in World of Outlaws and Lucas the no-fault caution. So who goes to the back? Chad Mater, right? Dennis Erb Jr. goes on. I think he got second because I think Pierce got by him. But Dennis Erb Jr., if it's a judgment call, it's obvious he spun him out. He goes to the back. Would you rather have the no-fault rule where you just don't do anything about anything, or make a call, look at instant replay to make sure you got the call right?
I just don't like instant replay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the tough part about this is a lot of tracks don't even have pay-per-views, and there aren't even filming even. So it's you would think at the national level, there's a lot of money on the line right there. Chad Mater didn't even make the show last night because of that. And like you said, we talk about that rule all the time. It's just stupid. So on a side note, Nick Hoffman just won in Menominee, killed everybody. So
really?
Ricky Weiss second, Tanner English third, Ryan Gustin fourth, AJ Demo fifth. Just came across.
Where did Turbo and Sorensen finish?
Oh boy! Well, there's Ashley Anderson 8th, Sorensen 12th, and Turbo 18th.
So the more things change, the more things stay the same. So I'll end the instant replay on this. Jeff Krause is leading. Little Dream, 29,000 to win. All of a sudden, you're battling in lap traffic, and you're kind of getting underneath the lapper. Second place guy dumps you, right? And they're like, well, we didn't really see it. We're going to go ahead. He's turned around. We're going to put 29 star to the back. How many people's houses do you burn down?
There's pretty much only one house left on the block in Rice Lake, and that's probably the hotel I'm staying in that night because there's going to be steel bars around me, and especially with that amount of money, but for the most part, Rice Lake, there's a corner guy standing right there. But I am a Minnesota car. I'm not from Wisconsin, so that'd be another different ball game. Sorry, Bert. I've had a little rough couple of calls out at the Little Dream, but no, I know I get where you're coming from, but like Bert said, you got to have something need to be uniformed here. They want to implement it. Now everybody's got to have cameras, and you have to first. People don't understand what it takes to have replay as well. You got to have a production guy running your instant replay. I pay my guy at Viking Speedway to do the production, and he's there every week, but you also have to have capabilities. It's just not, hey, watch it, hit rewind, and stop the VHS tape and hit play and go again. You know what I mean? You got to have a production guy watching that and then be able to make it. So yeah, Bert's right. Just completely get rid of the instant replay altogether.
We'll agree to disagree. I love the instant replay. I'm just a advocate of we're going to try to get it right. With that said, on the Rice Lake deal, and I'm not saying that there's been favoritism there or not, because I didn't really pay too much attention to that. But this year, right, FYE brought in their own officials they were not allowed to use Rice Lake weekly officials to be corner workers this week or at the Little Dream. They brought in their own officiating crew just to make sure there was no perception of favoritism or anything like that. So I think that was a pretty good move by FYE. So our weekly pick'ems here, guys, brought to you by Impact Health Sharing, getting to be that time of year, open enrollment around the corner. If you're paying for your own health care or pay for health care for your employees, you're paying too much, shoot me a call, 218-969-1380, or a text or Facebook Messenger. Got a product called Impact Health Sharing that might be able to help you put thousands of dollars back in your pocket every single year instead of giving it all to your health insurance people. So last week, guys, we picked the World of Outlaw late models at Boone. Bobby Pierce won that race. High limit sprint cars at Kokomo. Kyle Larson got it done. Little Dream, that was Tourville. USA Nationals, we picked those events as well. US MTS had a couple rainouts, and then quietly on fire, Rodney Sanders getting it done. I mean, guys, he has over 100-point lead in the US MTS right now. And I mean, it's kind of been quiet. What do you think? He's not really making a ton of noise, but man, he's been good. What's your thoughts on Rodney Sanders maybe locking up this, what is it, 100,000 to win the US MTS? Can he seal the deal?
Well, I think, did you watch the show last week? I
did not watch it.
I'm pretty sure it was me, wasn't it? I did have him on the hot list because he went 3 or 4, and he would have went 4 out of 4 if Mississippi Thunder wouldn't have rained out. So they've been having a tough time getting races in, too. It's been raining everywhere they're going to. But I don't know. Every time he seems to touch a track, the 20 car's been winning lately.
He has. That's absolutely true. So Carl, not so hot Carl, Bert. Carl was in the cellar, right, for the whole year. Plus 12. He got 12 points last week. Bert, Dan, and Curtis, 7 points. Mike, 5 points. Ryan and Brad, 4 points. Kent and Jeff, 2 points. Guys, the points tied on top. Curtis and the 2-time defending reigning Pick'ems champion who finally got his trophy. There it is.
I finally got the trophy. This is what we're all fighting for.
Puka finally got the job done. Curtis and Bert at 118, Mike and Brad at 114, Dan at 106, Carl at 97, Jeff and Kent at 94, at 93 in the cellar, but kind of a technicality, right? Because we're doing the show on Tuesday. Last night they got a race in. I got 2 points. I got it right, so I kind of jumped up past Jeff for sure. So I'm no longer in the cellar, even though it's a new week. So I guess I'm in the cellar for this week's show. This week, guys, we're picking, we did pick last night the XR Super Series event. That was Bobby Pierce getting it done. We picked the XR, I guess it'd be the Working Man Series, and you said the Thrill from Mooresville. Nick Hoffman got her done tonight. North-South 100, Knoxville Nationals, Harris Clash, Mater 55, and Rice Lake. So I'm going to jump in. We'll touch on a couple of these races here in the last lap segment. But maybe before we do, Knoxville Nationals coming up, guys. I tell you, is there a bigger – I mean, Bert would argue the World 100, right? What would you say is bigger in the overall scheme of things as far as dirt racing goes? What has a bigger allure? The Knoxville Nationals for the sprint cars or the World 100 for the dirt late models?
I think the Knoxville I'm going to have to go with the Knoxville Nationals, partly because over the last few years, I mean, just money-wise, there's been so many high-paying late model events added to the schedules where there haven't been that many high-paying events added for the sprint cars. Not as many, or at least not that I'm aware of.
So I sent a picture. I don't know if you got it, Bert. Do you know what it pays to start the feature at the Knoxville Nationals?
I got your text, but I didn't have a chance to look at it because I was rushing home to do the podcast.
Take a guess. Take a guess.
To start the Knoxville Nationals?
Jeff, what is it to win? Take a peek. What is it to win?
I don't even know.
You have the picture. Look at that picture on your phone.
Well, I'm too busy watching Tyler Erb for some reason get interviewed at Menominee. I don't know why he broke. He was 25 laps down, so who knows what happened there. The Knoxville Nationals to win is $185,000. I was going to say 175, but I think it goes up now. They're doing the kind of progressive deal, so $185,000 to win this weekend.
So, Bert, what do you think it is to start?
4,000.
15,000.
To start?
To start. 15,000. Wow. And so they have the alphabet soup. So I think the top 4 go into the A main. So 5th place in the B main, Bert. That's the first driver to not make the show. What do you think that driver gets paid?
$7,000.
$10,000 for the first non-transfer. That is incredible. That place is hopping. I'd love to make it to that event one of these years. That right there that's a lot of money, and not quite as much on top. But my goodness, 15,000 to make the show, 10,000 if you're the first guy not in. That's some impressive stuff. So let's jump into the last lap. Brought to you by Dirt Track Supply, Watertown, South Dakota, home of the Aero chassis. If you need safety equipment, tires, whatever it is, right? You need anything racing related, especially in Western Minnesota, especially over in South Dakota. Check out Dirt Track Supply over in Watertown. Talk to Trevor and Ron over there. Great people. So this week, guys, Gondikla Speedway, Friday, kind of one that hits home a little bit. Suicide Prevention Week. A lot of suicides in the racing community over the last few years. Just in general, there's been a lot. It's been crazy. But they have a great fundraising event over there. $1,000 to win. Pure Stock drivers, $1,000 to win for Pure Stocks over there. Hopefully they get a good turnout. So check that out. The real question in this for the Pure Stocks is, will it be the local guy, Aaron Burnick, who's won a bunch of races locally? Will it be the guy coming up from the Rice Lake area, Travis Hazelton, looking to kind of maybe seal the deal? Will Josh Berg make the trip over from Bemidji? We're going to find out here this coming Friday night. Guys, Billy Engelstad's back at it again with Soda. We're going to have a special report, right? We're going to have Billiams coming out here this week, so stay tuned. But just a little preface here. Jeff, would you agree the head of Wissota Teching, right? Techman's job is to enforce the rules, not make the rules, right? We would agree, right? Enforce the rules. Well, there was a driver in Superior that had a cold air box on his car, and nothing in the rule book doesn't say you can't have it. Did not disqualify him, though, so there is that. But he's like, well, I don't like it. You can't run it. Well, it don't matter what you like, guy. I mean, you don't make the rules. Enforce the ones you got. What are we doing here, right? Stay tuned for a special report coming out from Billiam later on this week. North-South 100, guys. This is one of my favorite events of the year. Florence Speedway, Walton, Kentucky, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Lucas Oil Dirt Late Models. Any thoughts? Anything that you guys are looking forward to here that maybe, I don't know if you have bold predictions or whatever, but if you do, save that. But anything other than maybe a bold prediction you're looking forward to at the North-South 100?
Well, I mean, obviously, Bobby Pierce runs well at Florence, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can continue the streak that he's on.
A lot of haymakers get thrown there. You know what I'm looking forward to? Rick Eggersdorf getting inducted into the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame Saturday at the Florence Speedway. Congratulations to him, one of the best late model drivers in our area to strap in. Got to compete against the guy, and just a huge shout out. Congratulations. Jump onto YouTube. We do have I did have the opportunity to sit down with him. Got a 2-part video there if you want to see an interview. But Rick Eggersdorf getting inducted. Kraus, anything you're looking forward to in Florence, or should we move on to the next one here?
Well, I want to see how rusty Tim McCready is. Pretty sure he's usually pretty decent there too. So, I want to see if he's going to show up and be a man and man up, and maybe you have to crinkle that right rear quarter panel a little bit. He's got enough guys to straighten that thing out for him. He's just a helmet bag guy anyway. So I just want to see, hopefully he's going to show up and ruffle some feathers and see if he can't get it done. I want to see another monkey wrench into this Pierce Thornton O'Neill deal. I want to see another guy in there. I want to get some more rivalries going.
Yeah, that might happen. There's a lot of haymakers there. So, Bert, you had a couple things over in eastern Wisconsin on your list there. A couple tidbits.
Yeah. Next week is the Captain of the Creek at 141 Speedway. That's a 10,000 a win IMCA Sport Mod show. This coming Saturday night is Vintage Night at Shawano Speedway. The track is encouraging fans to wear vintage t-shirts that they may have, anything else vintage. I do have my vintage Shawano Speedway shirt from the late 1980s, but unfortunately I won't be able to wear it because it does no longer fit me. I
understand.
I've heard rumblings. There's going to be some drivers that will have vintage graphic schemes on their cars, celebrating, I don't know, drivers from the past or something. So I'm looking forward to. I love history of racing and I love vintage sort of things. So I'm looking forward to Saturday night at Shawano Speedway. Update on the Mike's Video thing. Mike from Mike's Video did post on Facebook that he did meet with members of the Egg Board, which oversees the racetrack. He said the meeting went well. He hasn't been reinstated yet. He said it's a process, but I would expect, I mean, if I were a betting man, I would expect that he will be reinstated at some point. I think he, just based on comments he's made, I think he just wants to put this behind him. And I think everybody just wants to put this whole ordeal behind them. So that's the update on that. And then my final thing is I was at the USA Nationals, but last Saturday night at Shawano Speedway, they had a last lap for Scott Weisnick. Scott Weisnick works one of the wreckers at Shawano Speedway. He was instrumental in bringing the street eliminators back to Shawano Speedway. He actually raced street eliminators at Shawano Speedway in the 80s and then started racing late models. So he went from street eliminators to late models back in the day. But Scott is battling cancer. And so he's also a big supporter of local ice racing. And so he brought his ice racing car, which actually I think was his late model car back in the 1980s. I'm not positive on that. But so he made a lap around the track and they had street eliminators for him. And, I've heard that, he was all smiles, and I'm glad Shawano Speedway was able to do that for him Saturday night, because news spread on Sunday that he wasn't doing well, and he was admitted into hospice on Sunday. So if everybody can just say a prayer for Scott Weisnick and his family, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, as much negativity has kind of happened in the last, few weeks or whatever over at Shawano, they do some pretty cool stuff over there as a whole with the racing community. The way that they honor people that have been part of that racing community, they've done such a good job with that. So it's really, really cool. The Vintage Night, Kraus, write that down. You're on the board at Viking. That is awesome, right? Have a vintage night. You're wearing a vintage shirt right now. I mean, you're wearing that's kind of old school right there, but that vintage night is super cool as well. So thanks for sharing that, Bert. Some shout outs here. Final shout outs here before we get into the last segment of the show. Any shout outs that maybe we haven't touched on? Anybody you think might be worthy of an additional shout out before we move on? And I'll go ahead and start. I got one. So 13-year-old right here. Jacob Anderson, they call his dad the pizza guy, got a business there in Superior, Wisconsin, running a 600cc non-winged micro go-kart. Now, he's run go-karts now for a few years, won a bunch of races. They had a big show at Thunder Hill in Menominee, Wisconsin. Got his first career win in a 600cc non-wing micro. Guys, do you know who he might have passed to get his first career win? How about Kyle Busch? Would that be a pretty cool win for a 13-year-old? My first win in the class, I drove by this guy, kind of a shitter, Kyle Busch. You might have heard of him. That's super cool, right? So congratulations. Looking forward to him getting a couple years older, getting a big car. Dad, he's spending some money racing that go-kart stuff, but we need to see him. Blake Adams, he ran very well in the go-karts, transitioned into a Midwest mod this year, made a great transition, winning a bunch of races. So I don't see why this kid couldn't be any different. So that's Jacob Anderson. Remember that name in the near future. Guys, any last shout-outs from you before we jump on? All right, well, let's go to the 3 bold predictions. What we do every week is we make bold, sometimes not so bold predictions on racing related, sometimes sports, sometimes show related. It's got to be something that it either absolutely happened or absolutely did not an opinion based deal, and we kind of keep track of this. So we had a few come off the board this past week. So Birch said Nick Anvilink was going to win at least one Cedar Lake late model feature at the USA Nationals. All right, thanks, Nick. Appreciate the help on that one. You said Bobby Pierce was going to win a prelim. Good job. You did. And then you followed that by saying, but he was not going to win the USA Nationals 50,000 to win. So, Bert, that's a no. You said that the Shawano Street Eliminators were going to have at least 25. How many did they end up with?
They had 30.
30. So that's a yes. You got that one right. And a couple weeks back, you said Pat Doher was going to be the only driver to win at least 2 features during the XR Northern Storm Series. The Twin 25s ran Sunday, was the final of that. He won the first of them features. He did double up. That's a point for Bert as well. I had a couple come off the board also. I said the old 83 Dave Dalsiak, the one to go show 83 ride out, was going to park it in Victory Lane at Sycamore. Started on the front row, guys. And the guy that he's been getting second to every night got the jump on him. Well, that didn't last long because he drove by and put a straightaway on him, give him an absolute whoop-ass, and kind of going to have a rough week there for old Zuby because, Kraus, what's it like when you're the guy, when you're winning races and then your nemesis drives by you and straightaways you? Does that ruin your whole week?
Yeah, for the most part, it usually does ruin your whole week.
So good job, Dave Dalsiak, getting that one. That's a point for this guy. And I said that between Nick Trainer, Kyle Jeanette, who got DQ'd because he had a pit guy come on the track, can't do that, Keith Tourville, and Braden Brower, who didn't even show up, that 2 of those drivers, at least 2 of those drivers would finish on the podium. Well, Tourville and Trainer went 1-2, so that was a point for this guy as well. So, Kraus, you had a few as well. You said, actually, a couple weeks ago, you didn't get the point for this because Jeff missed it, but you had one in there a couple weeks ago that you'd have another first-time winner at Viking. That happened, but you said that for this week. You said it was going to be 4 weeks in a row, and it rained out, so you might have to replay that one. So that's not a yes or a no. And you said 65 or more street stocks at the Little Dream. 56, it kind of looked like weather might have been a factor. So you so you got a no on that, but how much do you think the weather played into that one? Probably a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. And then, I was banking on the Browers being there. That's 58. A few other guys I thought was going to be there. I don't know, $29,000. I think it'd be pretty easy to get 65 streeters there.
Yeah, it might have been 2 in the morning if they had too many more. So it worked out. And then you said RTJ was going to get taken out by another driver at the USA Nationals. Now, if you would have just said RTJ is going to DNF, you would have got the point. RTJ did not get taken out by another driver, therefore you do not. And then how about this for a bad beat? Jeff said that there was going to be 35 or more late models participating in the XR Super Series event at the Gondiklau Speedway on Monday. 34. 34. Bert, sound familiar? Did you have something like that here about a week ago as well? So our standings right now is I'm at 41.5% correct. Bert is at 40.2%. And Jeff and the listener are at 23.8%. They got a little work to do. Got a little bit of a late start, but got a little work to do. So this week, 3 bold predictions. We got 3 of us. I do have another guy that sent me one. He wanted added in on this one as well. We'll take 3 laps here around the racetrack. Bert, let's go ahead and start with you.
I will say AJ Demo will have a podium finish on in the Mater 55 in Menominee.
That's kind of cheap. You put him on the not hot list, and then you say he's going to be on the podium. So that's like you know he's going to be fast, and it's Menominee, and it's all right. Fair enough. That's low line fruit. You can, I guess, you can have it. All right, but that's I don't know. That's all right. Well, I won't give you too much grief for that. Kraus, what do you got?
I don't know, Bert. Demo just got 5th with the big boys at Menominee tonight. I would say a bold prediction. He's got to win the thing. That's just me. I don't know how bold, but given the fact, Donnie Schatz is going to win the Knoxville Nationals. He hasn't won a race since Eldora, has he? Did he win? He won the big one there, and then I don't think he's won a race since. He's only got 3 all year. So big money on the line. Schatz is winning Knoxville.
Schatz at Knoxville. Okay. I'm going to go to the Mater Memorial as well. Eastern Wisconsin represent. Nick Anvelink is going to be the 3rd winner of the Mater Memorial. Remember, Buzzy's the only guy not named Jimmy Mars to win, and he won it at Rice Lake.
Mm-hmm.
That race has never been won by anybody other than Jimmy Mars at the Red Cedar Speedway. I'm pretty sure he's not participating. Demo's going to make some noise, but I'm telling you what, Nick Anvelink is going to win that race. Bert?
I am going to say Bobby Pierce will not be on the podium in Florence.
You know, you got a terrible attitude. All right. So Bert said that Pierce not on the podium. All right. Kraus?
We're going Moonshine Montour, since you skipped it on our little deal. The final leg of the Moonshine Montour, they're going Lisbon Thursday, I-94 on Friday, Viking Speedway Saturday, and Granite City Motor Park on Sunday. Same driver. This is bold. Same driver is winning 3 out of the 4 features of the Moonshine Montour this week.
Off the record, do you have a guess which driver that will be?
Oh, boy. You really well, let me put it this way. It's going to be one of the Viking regulars. I'm going to say either Zach Johnson or Brady Gertis, because they're 5 points apart in this deal. I know there's a point fund. Travis Sauer, Justin Fremming are also hanging in there, and we're coming over to their neck of the woods. Lisbon's a coin flip, but I-94 and Viking could very well be Brady or Zach, and then Granite City. Who knows what could happen there? It'd be really interesting to see the travelers with the mods. Who's going to come? Who's going to show up? So, it's about a $7,500 purse, so it's a decent purse for the mods in 4 days in a row. So it's going to be should be a fun week.
So I'm going to ask you something here, because just in case of rain, right? You said 3 of 4. Do you want to go with at least 75% of the wins will go to the same driver? That way, if one rains out, that would only be 60. That wouldn't be even the right percentage.
See, Bert, here's the problem. Ryan's talking numbers right now, and we all know he's not a numbers guy. He's got talking percentages and all this and that. So one, we'll go 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. Does that make sense? If there does, the weather looks to be pretty good. So
if 4 of them race 3 out of 4, if 3 of them race 2 out of 3, if 2 of them race,
we get 2 of them race, we got to go 2 for 2, man.
Okay, all right, fair enough. That'll clarify, because we've had so many where we kind of did something like that and then it rained out, and it's like, well, it didn't even count. And the reason I skipped it is I was actually my next pick was gonna be a Moonshine Mod Tour pick as well, and I think I'll still do it because it's a little different than what you have. But I'm just gonna go ahead and say the Millennial Farmer is gonna cash in, and he's actually gonna seal the deal and win the inaugural series for the Moonshine Mod Tour. That's Zach Johnson, for those of you that don't know. Millennial Farmer on YouTube. If you like farming and stuff, he's got a pretty cool show on there. You got to check it out. Bert?
This week is money week for IMCA. So I am going to say Benji Lacrosse will finish in a podium position in 2 of the features this week. I believe they're racing 4. So if there's rain and there's only 3, it's still 2 out of 3. If they race twice, I guess it's 2 out of 2 then.
So yeah, two podiums, you said?
Podiums.
2 podiums for Benji Lacrosse this week in IMCA modified action. So I'm gonna divert over to Bob here. Bob wanted 1 pick. He wanted it in there. Daryl Nelson is gonna finish on the podium at both Rice Lake and at the Red Cedar Speedway this weekend in the Challenge Series races in the 44. He's had some tough luck. Spun a brake caliper here the other night and just kind of had some bad luck. But Daryl Nelson with a pair of podiums this week in the late model. That is for Bob. And my final pick, I got to go to the North-South 100, one of my favorite events of the year. RTJ and Bobby Pierce are going to swap at least 2 sliders in the final 15 laps of the A-Main at Florence. Not going to say who's going to win, but it's going to be one of those 2. But they will go back and forth on sliders inside of the, because that many laps beginning of the race, there's going to be some sliders early, might get strung out late, but there's going to be sliders at the end of that race. It's going to be interesting in the last 15 laps. RTJ, Bobby Pierce throwing haymakers at the North-South 100. So, guys, what's your plans this weekend? You guys going anywhere? What? Any racing plans for you guys?
I am going to Shawano Speedway on Saturday night.
Kraus, you going to Victory Lane?
Well, I'm hoping to. It'd be back to back, I guess. I might have to give that a whirl. It's been a while, but I'm debating what's going on here. I don't know. I don't know. Might have to hop in the old Viking Speedway pace truck and maybe go some of these Moonshine Mod Tour races and support them. I think it's going to be good racing, especially they're not too terribly far away, and maybe go show off Viking Speedway a little bit and then show off, go support the Moonshine Mod Tour. Got to see what my other co-host Dan is doing. Who knows? He's probably gardening or building who knows, a shed or something for somebody. But obviously I'll be racing. We're off the following weekend. I've been debating maybe going racing twice this weekend. I don't know. You never know where you're going to see me.
Getting kind of old. That twice might be a good idea. The Moonshine Mod Tour, quite honestly, the quantity of cars has been kind of low, but the quality of cars has been high. There hasn't been a ton of them, but there's been some really good cars, and some of those races have been absolutely incredible races to see. So, very cool series. I believe that's all. I believe all 4 of those, you can find them on Dirt Race Central as well, right? So, I'm kind of debating. I have no idea where I'm going to be at. I'm in eastern Wisconsin. I'm not too far from Birch neck of the woods right now, heading over to Neenah, Wisconsin, Birch. So that's not real far from you.
No,
you're stop knocking your door and wake you up.
You're about an hour away from me.
There you go. Well, we'll find out. If I'm home, I'm going to go see if we can help put that 83 back in victory lane. If I'm on the road, we'll see. I don't know where I'm going to be yet. So I just want to give a shout out. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Mason Aaron's Videos, got to give them an extra shout out as well. Thank you for all the time he puts into editing these videos for us. Check out his stuff on YouTube and on Facebook. He's got a lot of great content, great ambassador to the sport. So thank you to him. But guys, always fun chatting racing. I got to get back on the road. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Kraus, good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you guys soon, and you guys have a good night. Everyone, we'll see you next week.